Hey guys, DC Network here, coming at you with another video. Over the past decade or so, Cartoon Network has not been shy when it comes to rebooting or reviving former series. Obviously, in the mid-2010s to late 2010s, we had the Ben 10 and Powerpuff Girls reboots. We had Young Justice be revived with a Season 3 on the now defunct DC Universe streaming service. We have Adventure Time getting a myriad of new shows and new projects attached to it, along with regular shows. The Amazing World of Gumball is coming back. I could go on and on and on with the amount of Cartoon Network shows that are getting revisited. Heck, the Powerpuff Girls is getting a second revisit, and even Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends is getting a revisit in a preschool series. But one show that seemingly isn't going to get revisited, or at least the creator doesn't want it to get revisited, is Ed, Edd N Eddy. Ed, Edd N Eddy was one of the more popular Cartoon Network series from back in the day. It was a show that I beloved growing up watching Cartoon Network, and I know many of my friends also really enjoyed that show. Obviously, it's now a part of Checkered Past, and I would argue it's one of the bigger shows to come out of Cartoon Network in the late 90s and throughout the 2000s. And while many fans wouldn't mind seeing some sort of revisit to that world, creator Danny Antonucci does not want to see something like that happen. In a recent interview with AnimationMagazine.net, Danny was asked, "Have you had any discussions about bringing the show back in any form?" And he said, "For me, I've done what I was going to do. I mean, if the network wants to do it, all the best to them. It will fail miserably. They could have done a lot of things like spin-offs with some characters. I've been told you can do it for Adult Swim and they're all grown up, but then you were just repeating an idea. It was what it was, and to go back and revisit it would not be the same." So clearly Danny Antonucci is very against having an Ed, Edd N Eddy revival or reboot series coming to Cartoon Network or Adult Swim. And this is not something new. I remember hearing rumblings about, 6 or so years ago that Danny Antonucci was very against the idea of there being an Ed, Edd N Eddy reboot or revival series on Cartoon Network. And it's kind of curious to me because for me personally, right, I just said how I really love the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy. I loved the show growing up as a kid. I would quite frankly more than welcome a return to the series, either in the form of a sequel show or even a one-time movie event, just to see what the Eds are like as either adults or maybe they're in high school or something, kind of like what they did. I don't know how popular this show was, but for my Nickelodeon fans out there, if you guys recall the series Rugrats, the original show, they made a series after that called All Grown Up. They could do something similar to that, but within the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy, where they're now in high school or in college or something of the sort. And I personally would be a huge fan of a series like that. I would more than welcome it. I'd be the first to watch it day one. I'd be so excited for something like that, but clearly Danny Antonucci is against the idea, and it's kind of rather interesting because I've noticed this amongst creatives in general, that there's really two schools of thought when it comes to reviving or rebooting an old property that you worked on. Some creators, such as Maxwell Atoms or Mr. Warburton. Maxwell Atoms is the creator of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy, and Mr. Warburton is the creator of Codename Kids Next Door. In the case of both of them, they both want to return to their original series to make either revivals of it or make a movie. In the case of Maxwell Atoms, he stated that he wants to make a brand new movie in the world of The Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. I believe it was Billy and Mandy Destroy Us All or something like that was the name of it, and essentially it was going to see both Billy and Mandy being adults, and Mandy's now the Grim Reaper and Grim is retired. And I made a video a while back going into detail on that movie. I'll leave it up in a card above. And Mr. Warburton obviously wants to return to the world of Codename Kids Next Door and Galactic Kids Next Door. These are two creators that want to go back to their series. But on the flip side, there are certain creators that once they're done with the project, it's done, it's set in stone. They never want to return to that world. And obviously Danny Antonucci falls into that category. Obviously the elephant in the room here is when it comes to most series, the creators don't really have much of a say as to what exactly happens with the projects after they complete it or even while they're working on it, because a lot of times the network kind of just does what they want anyways. Like in the case of SpongeBob, for example, the creator of SpongeBob, Steven Hillenburg, he wanted to end the series. I believe it was at season 4. Nickelodeon obviously didn't let him do that because now 20 something years later they're still making new SpongeBob SquarePants. In the case of Ed, Edd N Eddy, will something like that happen? And I remember hearing a while back, and I tried to look for a source for this when making this video, and I really couldn't find anything on it other than hearsay on the internet. But I remember hearing a while back that Danny Antonucci actually owns the rights to Ed, Edd N Eddy, that if they wanted to make another series, they would have to get his approval to do so, which obviously, based on this statement we got from him in this article, he's not going to give the green light to that. Cartoon Network just owns the rights to the distribution of it, the merchandising, and all of that jazz. Cartoon Network does not own the creative rights to the show. Again, I don't have a source on this. It's just something that that I've heard, and it's just something that seems to be widely accepted online. Like, I was reading posts on Twitter and on Reddit where people are saying the same thing. It must have gotten out there somehow, and obviously whatever article that crept up in, wherever the source was for that, has been lost to time. But nevertheless, it seems like Ed, Edd N Eddy will not be a Cartoon Network series that gets any sort of revisit anytime in the near future. And while I do respect Danny Antonucci for not wanting to return to that world, at the same time, part of me is a little bit sad, because I really think if done right, a return to that world would actually be something that could end up being really good in its own right. And I kind of disagree with him when he says they're just repeating an idea. It is what it was, and to go back and revisit it would not be the same. I don't necessarily think it has to be the same. It could be something different. It could be a unique take on that world. Like I said a long time ago, I forgot the video, but I had an idea where what if you just have the Eds going to college, and like Eddie and Double D are dorming together, and Ed's kind of just crashing with them because he didn't go to school or something like that, and you see some of the kids from the cul-de-sac return, and a bunch of new cast of characters come into the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy. There doesn't have to be these grand schemes involved like there was in the original series. I'm sure Eddie's going to try to make a quick buck like he always does, unless if he's changed as a character over the years we haven't seen him, but I don't think doing something like that would be the same as the original, just repeating an idea that would end up being worse than the original. Just because you're returning to that world, it doesn't mean you have to be doing the same thing over again. You could have a distinctively different idea that doesn't even have to be the idea I just mentioned. I just think returning to the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy would be a welcome thing that me and many other fans would probably welcome with open arms. And again, if they did it right, it could have the chance to be something great. But again, that seems like something that's not going to happen, because Danny Antonucci has zero interest in ever returning to the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy, unless if all of a sudden he changes his mind. But again, this is something that I remember hearing about 6 years or so ago, and it's something that he's still saying today in 2024. So I doubt we're ever going to see a return to the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy, and in my opinion, that's honestly a shame, because I would really love to return to that world, even in the form of a miniseries or a one-time movie event. I don't really see the harm in doing something like that. Anyways, let me know in the comment section below what you guys think about all this. What do you guys think about returning to the world of Ed, Edd N Eddy? Do you agree with Danny Antonucci that it would end up being a mess that would fail miserably, or do you agree with me that it would be something that the fans would welcome, and if done right, it could be something fantastic? And honestly, I think it would be a good thing for the network and for everyone else involved. If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from DC Network. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.